Hi, my name is Josie Luetke, and I'm with CLC Youth, and I'm joined today by Roberta Skoko, who's running for English Catholic Trustee in West Niagara, which is Grimsby, Lincoln, and West Lincoln. Thank you very much for joining us, Roberta.
Thank you for having me, Josie.
Absolutely. And so my first question is, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you decided to run for this position?
So my family immigrated from Croatia when I was 2 years old, and we moved straight to St. Catharines in Niagara. And I had gone to school there, elementary, high school, Brock University. I planned on always staying there. I started working as a youth minister at a parish after Teachers College. And about 3 years in, I got recruited to work at a church in Mississauga. And initially, I had actually said no to the position right off the bat. And the person that was calling me said, "Roberta, you're a Catholic woman. You can't just say no to things. You have to pray about it." And I thought, oh, he's right. So we talked that Friday after a few days of prayer, and God really put it clearly on my heart. You have to go. You have to go. So within a month, I picked up everything I'd known, and I moved to Mississauga. I met my husband within 2 weeks of that. We were engaged 4 months later, married 6 months after that. We now have two beautiful children, 1 and 3 years old. And I had always hoped to move back to Niagara. So I loved my life with him, and we were quite happy where we were in Oakville at the time. But there was just something always pulling me back to the Niagara region, and I believe that comes from I had my faith reversion to the Catholic Church when I was 21, and I always felt that Niagara is this crown jewel. The diocese is full of the fruits of the Spirit, and it's small enough that if citizens become active members in society, Christian citizens, then it's small enough that there can be a real change and we can be a shining light in Canada. And so I was praying about this, and then we found a property, and you could tell my husband, when he saw the house, he was like, "Oh, we're moving to Niagara." We're doing it. So we moved last November. We reside in Grimsby. And like I said, I have a 1 and a 3-year-old, and I'm not comfortable sending them to our Catholic schools with the current state. So I am running, and my biggest objective is to revive Catholic education, to provide teachers with the resources they need to teach the faith in its true light, in the light that inspires and creates saints. Because right now, teachers are at all different faith levels. Some aren't practicing, and with that said, of course, they don't have heavy theological backgrounds where they could teach the faith in an inspiring way. And so I want to equip teachers, and this will make their lives easier too, right? Like the religion curriculum is always the thing that kind of gets pushed aside, that 25 minutes for religion every day. And so it's like, here, use this. I was in ministry for 6 years, so I have access to like the best Catholic resources there are. And so I want to help equip teachers and what this will do for students, putting the focus on becoming the best version of yourself and who God created you to be, and understanding what that means as you navigate through your life. And if I'm not elected, I'm homeschooling my children. So that's that.
Yeah, I think a lot of parents are contending with the same question that you are. Is the Catholic education system the same system that they benefited from when they were kids? And is it a smart decision to put their kids in Catholic education today? And I think part of the reason is because of one of the hottest topics in education, which is the radical sex ed curriculum, which many parents oppose and is being foisted upon students to indoctrinate them in LGBTQ ideology. I know as part of your platform, you indicate you view parents as the first educators of their children. So how do you see your role as trustee in fighting back against all this?
So you had mentioned that a lot of parents are wondering whether or not to send their children. And I found that the reality for a lot of people is that even if they would like to homeschool or opt for a private school or something, a lot of people feel stuck in terms of perhaps their finances or their options. And my husband and I, we really prayed that I could stay at home. We're on a tight budget. God has blessed his career, and we're able to make it work. But I've talked to a lot of moms, and they desire that, but it's not always possible right now. And it bothers me because instinctually, you would do anything for your child. And when you feel like you could be putting them in a situation where they are learning something that perhaps goes against your God-given conviction, it's devastating. And so I'm running for these parents and for these students because I feel like if you're in a situation where you are sending your child to a publicly funded school, you should be able to feel confident and good about that. So first and foremost, anything outside of reading, writing, and arithmetic, teachers need to inform parents of what is being taught before it's taught, because parents deserve the option to take their children out for certain topics that they're not comfortable with. And parents don't deserve to be judged for that, because parents are the first educators of their children. And so I think that that's one clear way that we can kind of help some parents feel comfortable. And then in terms of what's been going on in recent times, I will not be supporting that, because if you look at Canada, the most diverse country in the world, the Canadian flag is the best symbol for inclusion. And then you look at the crucifix. Jesus Christ lived and died for every single one of us. Every single one of us was worth dying for. And it's like, what does that mean in every person's life? And that's what we're supposed to be teaching. And so you look at the Canadian flag and the crucifix, and that will suffice. I do not condone belittling or bullying anybody based on sex, gender, religion. And do not be fooled. Students with strong religious conviction, I've ministered to them, and they have a very hard time in Catholic schools. They are bullied, they are suppressed. So I am here to protect every single student, no matter what their current journey is. So when you put Jesus Christ at the forefront, and when you start teaching Catholic education properly, every student will be so focused on becoming this best version of themselves, becoming who Christ wanted them to be, that there will be no room for belittling or bullying or, any of that. So this is my focus. I feel like we've been seriously misguided. We're confusing a lot of students. We've seen rates of confusion go up 400 times, especially amongst young women. And it's like, I remember what it's like to be a high school student that doesn't fit in, that walks through those halls with my head down, terrified to make eye contact with anybody because I felt so out of place. I didn't know who I was. It sounds so cliche, but I was young and I was figuring things out. I was navigating my new surroundings, and now imagine I had this ideology shoved down my throat. And it's like, it's very raw, and everybody's included, and you can be whatever you want, and you can look however you want. And okay, sure, but imagine I'm feeling so displaced, and then I've got this option, right? Like it's out to be part of a community. Very confusing, and like I may not have the husband and the children that I have today. And it's like parents and certified psychologists are doing this to children. Nobody wants to talk about what hormones do. Nobody wants to talk about the fact that for a year, 2, 3 years, it puts these children so behind that by the time they decide maybe I don't want to be on hormones, they've basically been chemically castrated. And then you look into their adulthood, some studies that have been done, their bones are so brittle. And I've heard testimonies on, Instagram, social media, about people saying I was mutilated at a time when my frontal lobe was not developed. And now and these people are feeling like nobody's ever going to love me. What's the point of even living? Why are we not advocating for those students?
Yeah, I can relate to what you're saying. Like I certainly felt different in school. And I'm so grateful that, I instead had an example set by my Catholic faith. And I was persecuted for practicing that faith. But relating to that sense of, being out of place is, I think, what makes the flying of pride flags so dangerous. These students are at an extremely vulnerable point in their life. And I don't think that we're doing enough to help them, especially considering, all of the evils that are presented by our culture today.
And what we're doing is they're threatening parents, saying that if you don't put your child who wants these hormones on hormones, then you might lose your child. They're treating it as if it's some sort of therapy. But what they don't see are the rates of suicide after hormone therapy, after transitioning. It's like it's higher. So it's like it's not fixing the problem. It's a heart problem and a mind problem. It's not a physical problem. And so these poor parents are, I don't know, just being poorly guided. And there's lawsuits going on right now. I don't have to tell you this, of people in their late teens and early 20s saying, I was not of sound mind to make these decisions. How could you let me do this?
Yeah.
How could you let me do this? And now it's irreversible. And I need to tell these people that this is precisely why I've given my whole life for Christ. Number one, he absolutely changed my heart. He took this heart of stone and he made it a heart of flesh. And with that comes this opening of the eyes that helps you see straight. And it's like, when you let Jesus Christ into your life, he will heal. He will heal you. So people that have gone through these hormone treatments or these surgeries, and you're feeling alone, like nobody's going to love you, you need to know you are worthy. You were worth dying for. And this is now one of your crosses. And I wish that it didn't have to be. If it is, it is. Jesus Christ will help you carry it, and you will become a saint. And this is what I want: redemption, revival. We all come from pain. My parents, I come from a broken marriage. And it's like through Jesus Christ and through faith counseling and through trying to understand all of these levels of brokenness that were in my heart from the divorce, but from other things as well, I can now have a marriage where we are consciously choosing to love each other and give our children stability, and like we are in it forever. And I'm surrounded by people like this because their lives have been transformed by Jesus Christ. I want this for people.
Yeah.
That needs to be the focus of Catholic education. Yeah.
And the teachings of the church are beautiful. That Christ, is closest to you in your brokenness. And I think, when put so clearly, it's obvious to others that, the church is not as hateful as it's presented to be, that it's the exact opposite. It's loving. And first and foremost it's truthful, because you can't have love without truth. So another, I think, important teaching of the church is that on abortion. I think all Catholic trustees need to be ready and willing to defend the teachings of the church, including on controversial moral issues. So briefly, can you tell us why you're pro-life, and what would you like to see from school boards on this front?
So growing up, we were just Christmas and Easter Catholics. By the time I got to high school, nobody had ever told me that abortion was wrong. You always heard lingo like, if a woman faces an unexpected pregnancy, she has the option to terminate it. You didn't hear things like, if a woman gets pregnant with a baby, she has the option to kill it. So it was very misleading lingo. And then I was very lukewarm about it. Like, I always thought, this is before faith. If I was ever faced with an unexpected pregnancy, I wouldn't terminate it. I wouldn't kill a child. Because that's what you're doing, right? So, but I was still very lukewarm about it. Like, people have the freedom to do what they want to do. And then I really commend my high school for this, St. Francis Xavier, that was the church I worked for. St. Francis Secondary School in St. Patrick. They brought in a pro-life speaker. And that speaker equipped us with the acronym SLED. So you know this, obviously, in your line of work: size, level of development, environment, need of dependency. So what is the difference between a child in utero and one on the other side of the vaginal canal? And it's the physical size, the level that the child developed, the physical environment, and then the need of dependency on the mother. So if you were to leave a baby lying there without any assistance, it would die. If you were to leave a more vulnerable person with special needs alone, he or she would die. So it's like there's really no difference. And science has told us the moment of conception, you have DNA there that has never existed before, that will never exist again. And it is developing human life, but a human life nonetheless. So this talk put conviction on my heart that abortion is wrong. But I still wouldn't have been an active pro-life advocate until my reversion to the Catholic faith when I was 21. At that point, when you come to the faith, when you become a Christian on fire, you're not only focusing on your children and your family and your, immediate family. You have this deep love for every single human soul because Jesus Christ loves them, and like he gives you a glimpse of his heart, right? Why am I doing this? Like I can raise my children the way that I want to raise them. At least I'm fighting for that protection in this country. I don't have to do this. I don't have to run, but it's like I'm doing it because I care about these other souls. I care that people are living fully alive, and so the pro-life movement is like you must fight for the most vulnerable. Life is precious from the moment of conception until natural death. And so if I'm elected trustee, part of the budget needs to go toward a pro-life speaker coming to every high school every other year. And there needs to be a pro-life initiative every year. Every year.
Yeah, I appreciate that because I was a student in high school myself, and that's when I got involved in my high school's pro-life club, and going to those conferences and those events were very important to solidifying my own convictions and my passion. So I think that definitely for the success of the pro-life movement, explaining pro-life apologetics as you did is really necessary.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Roberta. May God bless you.
You as well. Thank you.